pulls. What is a rug pull? How to spot it, how to avoid it, and how to stay safe in this cowboy NFT world. I'm your host, Philip Kalinko, and this is the NFT Show. Thank you for joining me. I thought, I wanted to bring a show to you guys about what's going on in the space. It's not a new thing. We've got a lot of people who want to capitalize on the money that's available in the space. They have bad intentions, and I just think before we get down and out and negative and all of those things about it, I think it's important to remember that in any space where there is a lot of money to be made legitimately, you do have nefarious characters that come into that space and try and make that money in a non-ethical way. So, you think of the internet, and we've got banking, online banking, and the second that came out, there was people, and there still are people who are trying to get your password. You have a business, a big business, and those get hacked and held for ransom. Before that, you had check fraud. So this is not something new, and this is not something unique to the NFT space. With that said, we as an NFT community and as consumers of NFTs need to be more educated. We really do. We need to know what to look out for. And I think an important thing is to follow your instincts. If something in a project is not feeling good or not feeling right, it usually isn't. And, I know it's difficult. Often you've been in that Discord a lot and you connected with the people and you've grinded for whitelist and you don't want it to be a rug pull, But in the end of the day, when you start to get those feelings and that instinct come in, you should try and listen to it. That instinct is usually right, and don't push that instinct away. So let's start off defining what a rug pull is. And then we'll jump into a few things, a list that I've made of things that are warning signs for me. So a rug pull or money grab or any of these terms that you hear in the NFT industry is basically an NFT project that has absolutely no intention on delivering value after their mint. So their plan and their goal is to make as much money as possible, hype up a project as much as possible, with absolutely no intention of staying around and developing the brand afterwards. Now, a rug pull itself, a normal rug pull, which is actually a bit less common than a slow rug, is literally the project is minted and all of a sudden the founders disappear, and that's it. Discord is got no one leading it. And that doesn't happen as often as a soft rug or slow rug. And a slow rug or a soft rug is the project mints, they sell out, and then the founders stay around and the team stays around. And they sometimes even do a second drop. But there is no intention long-term of staying. They will move on to the next project, and slowly the activity goes away, and slowly. So that's a soft rug versus a fast rug where it's just over quickly, right? I saw a thing the other day saying, "Just tell me if this is a rug. I want to know already. Stop drawing it out. And I'll tell you that I've been in the space now for 9 months, which is not long objectively, but in the NFT world is quite long. I was there just after Bored Ape Yacht Club launch, which makes me a bit of a dinosaur. But I also get caught by these projects. I sometimes have been involved in slow rugs and experienced it firsthand and lost my NFTs, gone to zero. So even with experience in the space, sometimes they are so sophisticated and so well marketed that everyone at some stage is going to get caught by at least one or two of them. So that's the reality of it. So I want to jump into my list that I've got, which I've made in my Discord just to try and help the community and talk about it more as we go along. So starting with number one, undox teams. Gone are the days where a team can justify not telling us who they are. So I think it's very important before we go through these red flags, very important to say that if a project has one or two of these things, it does not mean that it's a rug pull, and it does not mean that they've got bad intentions. However, as more and more of these stack up, it is more and more likely that it is a rug pull and that the founders have got bad intentions, right? So an undoxed team in and of itself is not saying that this project is going to be a rug pull. However, a doxed team in and of itself is a very good green flag, because it means that we know who the founders are. We can know if they've been involved in other projects. We can know, their history in NFTs. We can understand more about them. And there's also a little bit of recourse. Should the project go south, even with the best intentions, you know who the person is. Now, you just like in business, you can start a company with the best intentions in the world. You can hire people, you can run it, you can provide a good service or good products, and over time it could go bust, it can go under, and you get liquidated. Your name is on the founding statement of the company, and you deal with it. And in the end of the day, it's not like you a failure. And I look at it at the same as in NFTs. I've had no problem putting my face and my name on every single project that I've been involved in any capacity, whether it be a founder, an advisor, a community manager. My face is on the website, my name is there, because in the end of the day, I will give my best while I'm hired by that project, or if it's my project, I'll give my best the full time. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I've got nothing to hide. I'll answer to anyone, And I think that people being scared to say who they are is a bit of a red flag for me. And we often see them say, when we sell out, we'll dox ourselves, or my family's at risk if I dox myself. Now, I don't know that I buy that, to be very, very honest. 9 months ago, the space was very different, and undoxed teams were the norm. And there was less nefarious characters, there was less rug pulls, and there was less things that we're seeing going on. I mean, I saw a statistic today that 80% of all new projects out there are rug pulls, and a lot of them are by the same team or the same group of people, and they have the same MO. They have the same way that they do it. They get proper marketing, good promotional videos, maybe 10 good pieces of artwork. There is sometimes no collection past that. And so, when you're going in now in this environment with this level of teams that have bad intentions, if they're not doxed, then it's a concern for me. So it's a red flag, okay? Number 2, Discords with huge numbers in them, okay? So what I'm talking about is like 100,000 plus in their Discord. So they say our Discord is now open, and a day, 2 days, 3 days later, they say to you, oh, we got 25,000 people in our Discord in 3 days without any marketing. Look how amazing we are. That's not true. Discord numbers, like anything else, can be manipulated very easily. You can invite special bots into the server that act like people. They even can talk, even though often it's easy to spot, because they'll say the artwork's amazing when there's no sneak peeks yet, and things like that. And a good trick there is always to check how many people are actually online. So in a Discord, you can always see how many are online on the right-hand side. Scroll down, and if it's less than 20% of the number that they're claiming at any one time, so if they're saying there's 100,000 people in total that are members of that Discord, if there's not about 20,000 online at any one time, that number is wrong. But with that said, even bots can be online and show as online. So very huge numbers. We saw it with Hypebeast. So Hypebeast was legitimately very hyped, and they were like one of the first to have 250,000 people in their Discord. And then after that, we saw all these 3D projects claiming to have that same number. And quite honestly, I think Hypebeast was the only one that actually did. So Discords with massive numbers in them, check how many online. And the same thing is with Twitter. A Twitter following where it says 100,000 people, and you look at the post from like a week ago, and it's got like 5 likes and 2 retweets and 7 comments, right? You can buy a Twitter account with a following already, as many as you like. You can ask for an account with 100,000, 200,000, and you can just change that name, change the picture, and all of a sudden, oh, we're amazing. We've got 150,000 people following us on Twitter. But there, dig deeper, look at the comments, and don't just look at the number of likes and retweets and comments, but actually go and click on the comments and see if the comments on that post make sense, and if they seem like they're from a legitimate source. The other thing that I'm starting to see as a red flag is very high mint prices. Now, I just need to qualify this, that there are a lot of legitimate projects that are still around today that minted at 1 ETH, half an ETH, 0.25. So it is important for that to be known. However, usually those projects had invested beforehand. So they had a software, or they had a IP, like, for example, Journey Crypto. His intellectual property was that he has 3.5 million or whatever it is YouTube followers. It's probably, I actually think it's more, right? So he's taken time and money and energy to build that. And so he's got his IP already. He can then justify that sort of high price because he's got the intellectual property already. Whereas all these 3D projects, not all of them, 90% of these 3D projects that we've seen over the last month or two, where literally all they have is a couple of sneak peeks, a generic roadmap with absolutely nothing unique on it, no notable people on the team whatsoever, the team's not even doxed, and they ask him 0.3, 0.35, 0.4 ETH. That is a warning sign. It's a lot of money, and you've got to be aware of that. I mean, another example of when a lot can be charged, like Cool Pets recently with Cool Cats. That's an established brand. They've put a huge amount of money into developing their utopia where these cool pets are going to be able to evolve. So yes, they're entitled to charge a 1 ETH floor, and that doesn't mean that Cool Pets was a rug pull. So you do need to see the work that's gone into it before, and go into the Discord and say to them, what have you invested in this project so far that justifies charging a 0.3 or 0.5 price. The other thing that is a red flag, and just a reminder, none of these in and of themselves mean that the project is a problem, but as they stack up, you should have concerns. So raffle systems for whitelist. So, they come on, and again, I have seen some legitimate projects do it. They come on, first they have a whitelist where they want you to get on their whitelist. Then they say anyone that couldn't make the whitelist, we're going to have a raffle system. And usually they do it, and then they don't even post the winners. So they just say to you, you'll know if you won the raffle if you log in tomorrow and try and mint and see that you can mint, right? Whereas legitimate projects who are doing a raffle system, and it's not so common with legitimate projects, it's a new thing that's come in, they will typically say you can check 24 hours before to see if you won that raffle. So it's not going to be like, oh, you just log in then. And the other thing is when they're trying to just get as many whitelists as possible without any care, like oversubscribed whitelists is another example of a project that doesn't care. It's important to understand the reason that whitelists were invented. Okay, they didn't exist 6 months ago, right? Pretty much. What used to happen 6 months ago is hype projects used to have gas wars where 10,000 people would be trying to mint all at the same time, and that would lead to very high gas. And as a way to try and mitigate that, whitelists were introduced. So they had a good reason to be introduced. But whitelists should only, in theory, be used on very, very hyped projects, right? But what we're finding is it's become the norm now for every project to have a whitelist, right? Even if they're not hyped. And all of a sudden they're selling out on the whitelist. There's a gas war on the whitelist, which is exactly the reason that whitelists were there, to try and fix that problem. So there's no point of a whitelist if you've got a 10,000 collection, if you're going to let 15,000 people onto that whitelist. Okay, so Raffling systems is not in and of itself a problem, but it is just something that I've noticed. And it does say here means that all, it doesn't mean that all raffles are rugs. Another one is a short minting period allowance for whitelist. Um, if they're saying you've got 2-3 hours, that is a bit of a red flag. The truth is that it used to be 24 hours, and we are seeing in this particular market that's biting legitimate projects in the face, because they don't get, people are all waiting to see whether to mint. There's no incentive to mint, so they're waiting within those 24 hours. And the projects that are genuine and doing it for the right reasons and haven't oversubscribed their whitelist are suffering as a result, right? So they are having a 24-hour whitelist. They've only got 1,000 people on the whitelist with a 10,000 collection, and they're finding that they're only selling 200 on the whitelist because everyone's waiting for someone else to mint. And by the time it gets to public, there's no hype. So I do think going forward, you're going to see shorter whitelist windows, and like everything in the space, it's always changing. And so this short minting period allowance that is currently a bit of a red flag, it may very well not be a red flag going forward. And I think will actually become the normal, is to have a bit of a shorter, maybe 8 hours at the very least, to give any time zone the opportunity to mint. But when it's 2 hours or something like that, that could be a red flag. And another thing I've noticed is a common thread between these projects that have been proven to be rug pulls is, for some reason, all of them the day before launch have a picture of a billboard. Now, not just any billboard, but in a huge city around the world. They've taken over, under the NASDAQ sign, the whole of Times Square is their project. Right now, I don't know exactly what it costs to rent those billboards on Times Square, numerous of them. But I imagine that's millions of dollars, okay? And I highly doubt that any of these unminted projects with 3D founders, Undocs founders, are spending that upfront. I highly doubt it. So the day of mint, you're all excited, and all of a sudden you see something that looks a bit doctored, it looks a bit fake. All over New York Times Square, there's the project. For me, I leave the Discord immediately. I don't care how hyped it is. I don't care what they say. I'm gone. Okay, so I've just noticed that these claims of billboards in huge cities like Times Square, New York, where they've got a video of it, is often a red flag. Then, if you're in the Discord and you're seeing that the Discord's banning people for asking valid questions or getting aggressive with people who ask valid questions, that's a red flag. So I've been involved in many projects as community manager, and all our mods know that no question is a bad question. They have to be patient and they have to answer beautifully every single question, no matter how repetitive it is and how many people ask it, because it's important that any customer, which is effectively what someone who's going to mint your project is, they're a customer, feels that they can, ask what they need to understand whether they should be spending their hard-earned money on your project. And any project that doesn't understand that and gets angry with people for asking valid questions or bans people for asking valid questions is a very big red flag, and be very, very careful, right? The next one, when a project seems to be in a massive, massive rush to mint, okay? So, they've come, they open their Discord, there's that announcement, oh, we just opened, no marketing, and we are already 30,000 people, red flag number one. Then, we're going to be minting in 2 weeks, red flag number two, right? Then anyone who doesn't get whitelist, we're going to be doing a raffle system, red flag number three. Then the day of mint, there's a big billboard, red flag number four, right? Get out of there. It's just following the same procedure. And look, these guys are clever. They are good at creating hype. And in the end of the day, they will change as they are found out. And, these red flags now might not be the red flags of a month, but this is what we're seeing at the moment. Another thing in a way that you can see a soft rug is when there's a huge fixation on the floor price in a Discord. So, buying up the floor is actually part of the roadmap, and saying that they'll ban anyone who talks about floor price. Again, this aggressive, dictatorial sort of way. Get out, get out, get out, get out. Real projects that are focused on building are not focused on the floor price. Okay? They notice it, they see it. It's not a fixation, it's not something that's worried about. Their energy is spent building, and that in and of itself will increase the floor price, right? We did talk about this, but a massive Twitter following with a small amount of real comments and real engagement, hiding what's going on behind the scenes, right? What I mean there is that if a project is not forthcoming with what's going on the back side where people don't see, that's a red flag, right? If you're running a legitimate project, you've got absolutely nothing to hide. Nothing. Whether that project fails or not, it doesn't matter. You should not have anything to hide. If the one mod is telling you something about the token that's supposed to be dropped, and the other mod's telling you something else, you ask the founder, he tells you something else. When things are not consistent, and where there's a cloak, over what's really going on, that's another red flag. Okay. When you see channels saying ban bots with a huge amount saying ban, like bots banned, that's a red flag. Again, if you've got a Discord with 20,000 people and they say 700 bots have been banned, perfect. When you've got a Discord that's saying they have 200,000 people and 400,000 bots banned, that's just a line of text saying bots banned. A roadmap that has everything on it. Okay? So we're a community project. We're going to establish a DAO where the community will drive us. We're going to go into the metaverse. We're going to have a staking mechanism. We're dropping a token. We're going to be giving royalties to the holders. We're supporting every charity in the country. We're going to be doing a game, a P2E game. We're going to be doing a comic. We're going to be doing a TV show. Everything built into one roadmap. And then you want to know who the team is? No, none of your business, right? I have a right to know. I want to know if you're capable of making a TV show. What TV shows have you made before? I want to know if you're capable of making a game. How far is the game in development, right? So a roadmap with everything on it is a problem. A project that is short-term focused. So just as an example, and again, this is one of these things alone does not mean a rug pull. It's just warning signs that as they stack up should be a big warning for you. A short-term focus project. They have no limit on the number you can buy. So, mint as many as you like. That's not good for a project long-term. Ideally, you want a good holder accounts. So if you've got 10,000 NFTs, you want at least 5,000 unique owners to those NFTs. It's very important for the longevity of a project, because you don't want a small amount of people, even if they're not planning together. You just don't want a small amount of people that can affect the floor price so drastically. So if you've got 10,000 NFTs and you let anyone mint however much they want, and you end up having 100 people holding 10,000 NFTs, if 50 of those people get scared and sell their NFTs, your floor is gone and your project is gone. So you always want a better owner ratio, percentage owner ratio, and that's what you're looking for. So a project that doesn't care about how the percentage of owner ratio, in my opinion, doesn't care about the long-term future of the project. And that's a big signal to me that they're only short-term focused. They just want to mint out. That's it. That's another thing. When a roadmap's whole roadmap is until mint day, and then there's nothing after that, like 20% minted, we're going to deliver this. Once you get to 40% this, 60% this, once you get to 100% minted, there's no roadmap left anymore. So that's another warning flag. Not giving the community straight answers, avoiding direct questions. So if you go into a Discord and they've got a P2E game on their roadmap and you introduce yourself nicely in the Discord, and I'm new here, do you mind if I ask some questions? Have you started developing your game? If they don't answer that directly, and they end up saying, something like, well, we're not talking about the game at this stage. Or, they're not giving you a straight answer, saying yes or no. Yeah, either you've started developing your game or not. The follow-up question is, what stage of development is it? Do you have any notable gaming companies interested or invested in it? But if you can't even get a straight answer to the first basic question, and you find that they're avoiding direct questions, that's always a red flag for me. Number 17, being dishonest about one thing usually means that you have something to hide and will be dishonest about another thing. So I've got Skull Tunes here in brackets, and no one has said that this project is a rug pull. I'm not here to bring FUD. However, I'll show you what I've seen that is warning flags for me. And I called, what was it, Bad Bunny. I called Bad Bunny or whatever, Board Bunny, as a rug pull when no one thought it was. And I'm calling Skull Tunes as a rug pull. So I put it on record there. No one has said it is. I'm saying it is, and I'll show you why. There's a couple of red flags that came out, right? Let's see if we can find the real one, because there's so many. Oh, there's a fan page. Should have pulled it up before. Sorry, guys. Skull Tunes NFT. So what sat really bad, and I was really excited for this. I had whitelist for this project. I was very, very excited for this project. They have since sold out. Their floor prices looking healthy. So, this is a couple of problems. I'll show you what they are. Sorry, guys. This. Before mint, they minted 50, or they had some pre-auction where if you won something, you could mint 50. And then they said that there was a 7 Ethereum sale. They had only sold 50 out of 10,000 at that stage. And then they said there's a 7 ETH sale. Let's go Scullies. So when people looked into this transaction, so the mint price is 0.145. 50 out of 10,000 have been minted. And they're claiming that there's a 7 ETH sale. So when you looked into it, it was a new wallet address, brand new wallet address, only purchased ever is a 7 ETH Skull Tunes, okay? And it was from the same wallet address that registered on Coinbase with the contract. So the same IP address. So there are quite a few people who called this out as absolute rubbish. They've now just flooded this with other comments and positivity and whatever. Probably, they can't delete comments, so you'll see some people's comments. But that was the first red flag. Then the other thing I did see was also a New York billboard, which for me is always a red flag. Wonder if I can find it for you. And then the other thing I saw was they said, oh, we've collabed with this massive project, but really all that they had done was done a sort of custom image that they tweeted and copied that other project in. So it's not a collab. It's just them, trying to pretend like they're collabing. So here, there's a few things of dishonesty that we've seen all at once. And also the mint price was not too bad, but 0.145 is not great. They were also oversubscribed on their whitelist, which is another one of our red flags. So straight away, just by looking at their Twitter, there's 4 or 5 red flags already that have come up. That for me was the reason that I am quite confident that it will come out that this project is not legitimate. Number 18, projects that intentionally try to get FOMO in order to get you, fear of missing out is FOMO, in order to get you to buy. Example was Pixelmon, right? So for anyone who doesn't know the story with Pixelmon, they started at a 3 ETH Dutch auction. They presented as if they had a whole game in the making and a whole lot of great trailers and teasers. And then they said the first 500 people that mint at this 3 ETH amount, obviously because they wanted to get people to mint as high as possible, would get a special potion in the game. So they intentionally trying to create FOMO to make you buy even at a stage when you usually wouldn't buy. and it ended up working, and they ended up making $70 million with nothing developed. I have seen recently, and it's maybe, I know I'm going from left to right, it's maybe a bit of alpha. I have seen that they are actively looking for very high level people to take over the project or to help them with the project, which is a positive sign. And that there was some names that have been going around as rumors that will be taking, very notable names that will be running Pixelmon going forward. So look, they're sitting at a 0.2 Ethereum floor price. Maybe that's a bit of alpha if you've got a very big appetite for risk to buy into Pixelmon, which was 100% a money grab, because they do seem like they might now be trying to turn it around. But it's probably a long-term play and it's very risky. But if the people that I've heard are going to be running it, it will be quite bullish for the project. But again, this is very risky alpha and based on a lot of hearsay. But yeah, I mean, Pixelmon was definitely a rug. They lied about what they had intended, but now that they've been doxxed and found out who they are, seems like they're trying to make good to some degree, and that might be a buying opportunity, but high risk, high risk. So a bit of alpha even in a show that's about rug pulls, right? Okay, number 19, rush to get to mint. Everything seems geared to getting to mint date as quickly as possible. When you see this urgency and this mad dash to mint date, it's usually a red flag. Why? Because the longer they stay around, the more chance they have of being discovered as having bad intentions, and that's going to ruin everything for them, right? So rush to mint, rush to mint. The projects that I'm involved in, we've delayed sometimes. You know, 2 weeks before mint, we know we're not going to be ready. We'd rather delay. We want to mint as soon as possible, but we're not in a rush to the detriment of the project to rush it to mint when we know we're not ready. You want projects that are going to build first and launch after, not use launch as an investment round to get money to maybe develop certain things. You want building going on before, so that when you launch, there's a project, there's a product, there's a plan, and there's work on that plan. Not just, okay, the goal is to sell out and then we'll decide what to do, Number 20, oversubscribed whitelists. So when projects were hyped in the good old days, 9 months ago, the big thing was gas wars. There was no such thing as whitelists in those days. There were a lot less rug pulls and a lot less rubbish what's going on now. There was one or two, but a lot less. And you were finding a hype project, there was such gas fees that the project founders wanted to do something that would be in the best interest of people minting and lower the gas fees. So the solution for that was whitelists. So you got a 5,000 collection, get 1.5, 2,000 people whitelisted, give them 24 hours to mint, guaranteed that they can mint in those 24 hours, and then they won't have any gas fee, any gas war. And then after those 24 hours, open to public, and there'll only be half the amount of people that can mint because half have already minted on whitelist, and that should help everyone, right? That was the idea of whitelist. Now you have every single project in the whole space, and it's become the norm, having whitelists, selling out on whitelist, never goes to public. And what the biggest problem is oversubscribed whitelist. So they're pretending as if you have a guaranteed space to mint. And if they've got 10,000 NFTs, you can mint 2, they get it, giving out 10,000 whitelist spots. And that happened with Skull Tunes. Skull Tunes was sold out in 20 minutes on whitelist. I had whitelist spot. Whether I admitted or not is a different story. I'm just saying I had whitelist. I wasn't there on the dot at 12 because I was supposed to have 24 hours. And God, sorry, we were oversubscribed. That's your fault. That's bad management. It shows you don't care about the community, and it shows that you're just doing this as a money grab. That's bottom line. So that's a big red flag. Oversubscribed whitelist goes against the very nature of what they're supposed to be there for. And then the last one, which is pretty obvious, is going to be risky: double or triple or quadruple derivatives, right? Board, punk, cat, right? Ape, whatever, right? Derivatives of derivatives of derivatives. The projects that are going to be around in the next year maybe in the next 5 years, maybe in the next 10 years, are projects that have their own vision. They're going to follow their own path. They've got a unique service or product or offering that they feel that they want to offer in the form of an NFT, and that's what you're looking for. Like NFT worlds, right? I always bring them up as an example because I'm a big fan. They were one of the first metaverse plays. Yes, it was Sandbox Decentraland, but not like NFT worlds where you could buy and own a world that can then be developed and used as a metaverse and all the rest. Their PFP looks nothing like anyone else's. Their name sounds nothing like anyone else's. They were ready to go on the big deliverables from day one. So double, triple, quadruple derivatives, big red flag, and you should always be concerned about them. Okay, so that's that. Then I just wanted to take you through a couple of in Discord things that you should be careful with, and also just some tools. So something that I do follow is NFT ethics. They're great to follow. And let me make this a bit bigger for you guys. NFT ethics, they're really good, and they tend to bring you, without fear or favor, anything in the space that is looking a bit funny. So it's a good one to follow. I mean, they called out Pranksy. They're not scared. They called out Bored Ape Yacht Club, who apparently sold a certain amount of Bored Apes before bad news and bought 40 Bored Apes before good news. They did the same with Clone X. There was, the Clone S, there was one guy from Clone X that before the Justin Bieber sale bought the floor because he had insider knowledge. So these guys are not scared to call out no matter who it is. And they do it continually, right? That's really great to see. They are not doxed, as you can imagine, because I'm just reading here, Meta Mansions NFT. Read it yourself. Don't know, scary stuff. But they're not here. Yeah, they called out Yuga Labs and Animoca Brands for insider trading, and actually Yuga Labs apologized. It's just showing that it goes deep, But yeah, you can look at that yourself. It's a great Twitter thing to follow. The other one that I follow that's really, really good and does their research properly is Rug Pool Finder, and they'll tell you which projects they feel are rug pools, and they give it a score and why they're concerned. Right, and when they're really sure that it's a rug pull, they'll post these things saying a rug pull or scam alert, right? So that's not a great image. So yeah, that's another great one to follow over there. And then when you're in a Discord, and there's a few things that you need to be aware of. So I'll just do this quickly. A bit too big. It doesn't change. So in a Discord, remember a couple of things. First of all, your DMs should always be off in Discord, really and truly. And if they're not off, if you're getting something that looks like it's from a project that you involved in or follow, or you're a holder, saying quickly click here to mint or whatever, it is 100% rubbish. Any good project will never send you a DM with a link to mint. The other side is when, let's just say, launch of a project is supposed to be tomorrow, and they end up saying that we're doing a how do they say it? We've decided to reward our community, and we'll be allowing 500 of our OGs to mint for the next 2 hours as a big thank you. Here's the link, right? So that's called a stealth mint. Means that the mint was planned for another day, and they now saying that that has changed. No legitimate project will say that. Do not trust that. Another thing is that sometimes you can have a Discord that gets taken over by hackers, and and what they do is at the time of mint, they'll post a message in general chat saying mint has started, which is supposed to start then. Click here. if you see that in general, usually that will be done in announcements with a link to official links. If you see that in general, 99% sure it's a scam and the Discord has been hacked. And then what you should do in that case is always check that website versus the website that's in official links, and see if it's the same website. So often there's just subtle little changes there. So just be careful of that. And I'm also seeing, funnily enough, on Twitter, I'm seeing, I wonder if I can just come across one, but I'm seeing promoted tweets that say Mint is live. So it will say promoted tweet here. When it's like Mint is, I saw it for Imaginary Ones, which is a hype project that they don't even have a mint date yet. And I saw it quite often saying Mint is live, Mint is live. Promote when I looked, and it was quite convincing. The website looked very similar to theirs. But when you actually looked at it, it said promoted tweet. And also, I then went into the Imaginary Ones Discord and went to their official links, and their website was slightly different, even though it looked identical. So these guys are getting cleverer. And, it is a bit of the wild, wild west out there. So you got to please be careful. And yeah, just know that people will try anything they can to get things out of you. Don't click links, and just be careful. And as I said, if something feels uneasy, or if something feels wrong, it usually is wrong. Trust your instincts. So with that, I'm going to end. Thank you for joining me. Keep safe. Be kind to one another. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe. Join our Discord. Our Discord links are in the YouTube About section. Got a lot of alpha, great community, and would love to have you. Thanks for joining me, guys. See you tomorrow. Ciao.